Everything's aboard and ready to go.
I'm coming up the other side of the stairs. Coming up the other stairs. There he is.
Right there.
Got him.
He's weak.
Bye. Oh, he has a shield.
Immediate medical assistance needed.
Heal.
Yeah, he's down.
We're good. They're all dead. Let's go clear our manhunt status.
Yeah, I'm respawning.
Okay, my thoughts on what I got to play with the Division 2 in the Dark Zone and even a little bit on the PvP aspect. So again, these are just my thoughts. This is not the Gamertag Radio thoughts. We'll actually record a podcast here, and the three of us will just kind of go back and forth on what we thought of the game. But you know, I figured this is going to be for YouTube. I wanted to just put out something with some gameplay in the background and just kind of talk about what I thought personally of the game. So for those that don't know, back in December, we were able to go out to Red Storm in North Carolina and sit down and talk to the devs, get some hands-on with the new Dark Zone and PvP that's coming out for the Division 2 in March. So what they were able to show us was, or what we were able to actually play, was we got to see the 3 new dark zones, I guess you should say, and we got to actually play in Dark Zone East, we got to play in Dark Zone South, and there is actually a third, a Dark Zone West, which we did not get to play or capture any footage on. But each of these environments will be unique, different gameplay styles, etc. when you go in to actually engage in doing the PvE and PvP activities in these dark zones. The unique thing that they're doing now, not only are there 3 separate dark zones, there is, once you hit the end game, there's going to be what's called the occupied dark zone. And the reason this is different is because they're introducing what they like to call normalization into these dark zones, where you no longer have, just in the standard dark zones, your gear, it matters, but it won't matter as much. So what I mean by that is, if you're a lower level player or just have lower level weapons, gear, etc., you can still compete against the more advanced players in the game that have the higher level weapons, the higher level gear, perks, skills, etc. So, you know, you can compete. So it's not going to be that they're just stripping everything out of the higher level players, but they're toning it down somewhat so that you will have a chance when you're engaged in that dark zone. But I bring that up because when you're in the occupied dark zone, that's the end game. And the occupied dark zone will rotate. It won't always just be Dark Zone West or always Dark Zone East or South. It will rotate between the 3 zones. And once you enter an occupied dark zone, your gear is going to matter. And it's going to matter, your weapons, the skills, the perks, everything will matter. It is going to literally be the Wild Wild West when you're in these occupied dark zones. So I'm excited to see how they're going to be able to pull that out. But it also brings me a little bit of pause because you guys know, I play Destiny. I love Destiny. And the thing that Bungie has struggled with is balancing the casual experience with the hardcore experience. I think they're getting a little better at it right now, but I even asked this question to Terry, Spear, and Tony over at Red Storm when we got to sit down with them and do an interview. Like, what are you going to do about the balance? How are you going to balance this out? And even they were like, well, we don't know. We'll see. We're trying our best effort at launch, and then obviously they're going to have to get the feedback from the community, you know, and adjust from there. But just be aware of that at launch. They may over casualize it, or it may still be too hard of an experience. I mean, we don't know. We'll have to see. But once you hit that end game, that occupied dark zone for sure is going to be the place where you're going to want to be, because that's where your skill and your gear is going to matter. And I'm excited to see what that's going to be, which, by the way, I'll just say, because, you know, we've had some of our gameplay footage out there, and I know I've got some comments like, dude, you suck, you stink. Look, I'm 45 years old. I love playing video games, but no, I am nowhere near the best player in any of these things. I just like to have fun. I try my best, and it is what it is, but that's okay. I'll never pretend to be some master in any of these shooter type of games, but I feel I can hold my own. And, you know, when you watch this gameplay footage, yeah, I absolutely was stinking at the beginning. I was using LMG, and it was kicking all over the place, but once I kind of swapped my weapons out, and found what worked for me, I was definitely having a lot more success. But here nor there. So like I said, just giving my thoughts on this. So another thing that's coming in is going to be the rogue loop when you're actually in the dark zone and playing. And basically what that means is there's going to be different tiers of alerting while you're in there. So let's say at its lowest level, I pick a lockbox and steal the supply cache, out of a chest or whatever you want to call it, and that is going to make me rogue. So now I can engage other people basically in PvP activities. And let's say I'm starting to have success as a rogue and I'm killing people, and it's going to start to escalate, and it basically will get to the point where you're going to go manhunt. And once you go manhunt, everyone that's in the dark zone is going to be alerted to your presence, and everything is going to be chaos at that point, because everyone's going to be running and gunning for you. But it's kind of the big risk reward thing, because once you hit manhunt, I mean, you're going to get more dark zone points. It's just going to escalate everything up. So, you're going to get more rewards if you go manhunt. But like I said, there's also that risk of everyone's looking to take you out, and you could lose as well. You lose gear and things as well. So like I said, there's the check and balance of that, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. So like when we were playing, we were definitely going in that cadence of, let's go rogue, let's escalate it up, let's get to manhunt, and we were actually looking to engage with people. But again, that's where I think once we get to that occupied dark zone and your gear and your skills matter, I mean, that's where people are going to be able to shine. You're going to see who the best, quote unquote, dark zone players, dark zone clans and groups in the world are going to be, because they're going to want that confrontation to test their skills. So excited to see where that will go once we get to the final to the final game in March. Now, another thing is clans. They mentioned, they haven't given us all the details yet, but you'll be able to have 50 players in a clan, and each player will be able to have 4 different characters. So, you can have different characters play with their loadouts, etc. while you're in there. And like they said, there's more details on that coming. So I don't have too much to say on that other than, hey, let's see. I'm glad that they have clan support in there. Obviously, clans are going to be big once we get on the PvE side, where there's going to be the raids that they promise that are coming. So you're definitely going to want to have your group so you can squad up. But I can even see the importance of clans when going in the dark zone. Like I mentioned, again, these groups going into these occupied dark zones, which, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention is the dark zones are now 12 players. I asked this when we did the interview, and they explained why. And I will fully admit, while we were playing, it felt fine. I didn't have an issue with that at all. I will be curious to see how this plays out once the game is out in the wild and we're in the final version. I do wonder if that's enough players in any one zone at a time. I mean, I know there is always going to be matchmaking going on, so as people come and go, you're probably going to see new players in there. But, like I said, the size of the environments felt fine. We kept running into players while we're in there, but hey, we're at an event, it's the media and press. Who knows how it'll play out once we actually get to the final product in March. So to me, that's going to be another TBD. Is 12 players enough once we're actually in the dark zone? Something else I was talking to those guys about is they've changed up the client server architecture as well, so there won't be as much cheating, because with the original Division, so many functions were happening on the client side instead of in the server. It was very easy for people to kind of change INI files thing. I won't get too technical on that, but basically they were able to manipulate more things on the client side, which was enabling them to do more things when they're in the game that were not fair. Let's just put it that way. So they're moving more things over to the server side to kind of be able to monitor and control that, which is a good thing. The other thing is the PvP aspect of the Division 2. At launch, we're going to get Skirmish and we're going to get Domination. I'm just going to be frank with you. While we played Skirmish and Domination, I had fun. It's not something that I'm going to be playing long term. I might dip my toe into it a little bit early on to check it out, but PvP isn't why I come to the Division. It is like that dark zone, that blend of PvE and PvP that I do like, but just a straight up PvP aspect isn't necessarily. This isn't going to be my PvP game of choice. Let's just put it that way. This is where I'm not going to look to get my fill of PvP. I'm going to look for other things. But, this is just the 2 modes that are coming at launch. Maybe they'll introduce a new mode down the road. I mean, I do think Battle Royale is on the table for a game like the Division. They could potentially be able to do something like that. Obviously, survival mode, things of that nature. So we'll see as new modes come in for PvP if it's something that I'll want to engage in more. But It does have its own progression track, separate from the Dark Zone progression track, separate from the PvE progression track. So if the Division PvP style is for you, you'll definitely be able to engage in that and progress accordingly. So like I said, as I wrap this up, I'm not going to get too much into the weapons, the armor, and the specialized skills, because this was still a preview. This is a quote-unquote demo. It's not the final, so these things will change. And I'll bring up an example of that is your assault drone that you can have. We definitely found that to be overpowered when we were in the game, because it was a little buggy where you weren't able, while the drone didn't, you know, have like it wasn't a bullet sponge or anything like that. If you could shoot it, you could take it out pretty quickly. It was very hard to shoot it, especially with a controller. Maybe it'll be a little different in a mouse and keyboard, but it was very hard to shoot with a controller. And that just, in that sense, it made it very overpowered, because it was hard to kill, and it was just this nuisance that you couldn't get rid of. So a lot of people, not just myself, was not complaining about it, but was just definitely pointing that out while we're in the Dark Zone and playing. But like I said, overall, I enjoyed my time in the Dark Zone playing in the Division 2. It is definitely something I can see me going to a lot when I'm playing, when the final game comes out. Now, I'll be interested to see how I feel about going into it solo versus with a group of friends. I definitely think the Dark Zone is something you want to do with your clan or with your buddies, you know, versus trying to go in there solo, because there definitely could still be some griefing with that. I do think the normalizations help with that, so that you're not just being overpowered, especially in 1v1 encounters against a higher level or more skilled person. But once you get to that occupied Dark Zone where your gear and your skill will matter, you're going to want to come with your buddies. I just don't see me wanting to go into the occupied Dark Zone solo, because I don't necessarily know that that's going to be a fun experience. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, this is still early days. We aren't in the final game yet. We'll see once the game comes out how it feels, how it plays. But I can just say, with my limited time so far, I really enjoyed my time with it. And I think as you guys are watching this, you know, definitely when that beta comes out, I believe it's February 7th. I'm sure they're going to have the Dark Zone in the beta. Make sure you check that out and form your own opinion. So, again, I want to thank Ubisoft for inviting me out to Red Storm to be able to play the Division 2. I want to thank Red Storm for being gracious host while we were there. It was definitely it was a fun experience. I really enjoyed my time. And I'm looking forward to the beta, just like everyone else, to get my hands on this game again. And then obviously on March 15th, when the final game comes out. So this is Paris. Like I said, I'll get with Danny and Pete on Gamertag Radio. We'll have our full thoughts together on what we think about the Dark Zone and the PvP for the Division 2. But just want to put this video out. Thank you guys for watching this, and I will see you soon.